Many men over 50 believe they would immediately notice when a woman is interested in them. They often expect attraction to be obvious, expressed through direct compliments, physical affection, or unmistakable invitations. However, attraction, especially among mature women, is usually far more subtle. Women at this stage of life rarely announce their feelings openly. Most prefer not to risk public rejection or put themselves in vulnerable situations. Instead of making bold moves, they often express interest through simple questions. The challenge is that these questions rarely sound romantic. They seem casual and ordinary, causing many men to answer them without realizing there may be a deeper meaning behind them. A woman asks what appears to be an innocent question, the man responds practically, and the moment passes unnoticed. As a result, he leaves thinking they simply shared a pleasant conversation, while she may conclude that he either wasn't interested or failed to understand her signals. This situation is more common than many men realize. It is not caused by a lack of confidence, attractiveness, or age. Rather, it happens because the way people express attraction evolves over time. While younger women may flirt more openly, women in their 40s, 50s, and beyond often take a more thoughtful and indirect approach. Instead of making the first move, they create opportunities for connection and wait to see whether a man notices. That is what this conversation is really about. Over the next few sections, we are going to explore some of the most common questions women ask when they are interested but not ready to say it directly. Understanding these questions can help men notice opportunities they might otherwise miss. After 50, success in dating is often less about making grand efforts and more about recognizing what is already being offered. The first question sounds simple enough, but it reveals far more than most men realize. A woman looks at you, smiles, and asks, "How old are you?" At first glance, it sounds like harmless small talk or playful curiosity. Yet the real purpose is often not to learn a man's age. Most women can already estimate that. What interests them is how he feels about getting older. She is paying attention to his attitude and confidence rather than the number itself. Does he accept who he is, or does he believe his best years are behind him? Unfortunately, many men undermine themselves at this moment. They begin joking about aging, complaining about physical aches, or making self-deprecating remarks. Although the woman may laugh politely, she often notices the insecurity behind the humor. A better response is one that reflects comfort and self-assurance. There is no need to pretend to be younger or act arrogant. Simply showing that you appreciate your life experience and feel comfortable with your age can make a strong impression. I remember speaking with a man who told me about meeting a woman at a live music event. During their conversation, she asked how old he was. Instead of answering confidently, he joked about senior discounts and memory problems. Although she laughed, the conversation lost some of its spark. Later, he realized that the question itself wasn't the issue. What bothered him was what it made him think about. The woman wasn't focused on his age. She was trying to discover whether he still felt energetic, engaged, and confident about his life. Another question that often surprises men is, "Why aren't you married?" Some men interpret this as criticism or feel pressured to justify themselves. In reality, that is usually not the intention. When a woman asks this sincerely, she is often trying to understand who the man is today rather than investigate his past. She wants to know whether he is emotionally available, whether he is open to a relationship, and whether previous experiences still influence his outlook. Although the question seems to be about marriage, it is often really about future possibilities. Many men unintentionally hurt their chances by responding the wrong way. Some recount every failed relationship they have ever had. Others dwell on divorce, betrayal, or heartbreak. Some speak bitterly about marriage and insist it is not worth the effort. While they may believe they are being honest, what the woman often hears is someone who remains emotionally tied to past disappointments. A stronger approach is to acknowledge the past without becoming trapped in it. There is no need for a lengthy explanation or detailed history. A simple response that shows growth, perspective, and openness can be much more effective. For example, saying, "Life took me down different paths, but I'm still open to meeting the right person," reveals far more than a long account of past relationships. I once heard about a man who met a woman during a charity event. They spent the evening enjoying each other's company. Toward the end of the night, she asked why a man like him wasn't married. He immediately began describing everything that had gone wrong in his previous relationships. Although she listened politely, the easy connection they had shared seemed to fade. Only afterward did he realize that she wasn't looking for a detailed history of his past. She was trying to determine whether there might be a place for her in his future. And this is why the question about marriage can be so significant. When a woman asks why you are not married, she is often doing more than satisfying her curiosity. In many cases, she is quietly trying to determine whether you have moved on from past relationships or whether old emotional baggage is still influencing your life. Your response can reveal much more about you than you may realize. Another simple question that often carries hidden meaning is, do you date younger women? Many men are unsure how to respond when they hear it. Some view it as a compliment, others become defensive, and some avoid answering because they suspect it is a trick question. However, the question is usually not about younger women in general. More often, it is about the woman asking it. What she is really trying to find out is whether someone like her could be a romantic possibility in your eyes. She is not interested in hearing a history of your dating experiences or a detailed explanation of your preferences. Instead, she wants to know whether you would be open to exploring the connection that may already be developing between the two of you. Unfortunately, many men unintentionally create distance at this point. Some boast about dating younger women in the past, hoping to appear more attractive. Others dismiss the idea entirely by saying they are too old, without realizing they may be rejecting the very possibility the woman is considering. A more effective response focuses on the importance of connection rather than age. For example, a man might explain that compatibility, character, and chemistry matter far more than numbers. Answers like these communicate confidence and maturity while keeping the conversation open. I remember hearing about a man who met a woman during a weekend book club. After spending time discussing books and sharing personal stories, she asked whether he typically dated younger women. Rather than focusing on age, he replied that meaningful connections mattered more to him than anything else. His answer reassured her because it addressed the real concern behind her question. The important thing to remember is that questions like this are often subtle expressions of interest. She is not really asking whether younger women appeal to you, she is wondering whether she does. Another frequently overlooked question is, what kind of woman do you usually like? Many men assume this is casual conversation, similar to discussing hobbies, travel preferences, or favorite foods. Yet when the question comes during a comfortable and engaging exchange, there is often a deeper purpose behind it. The woman is not simply collecting information. She is comparing herself to the image you describe. She wants to know whether the qualities she possesses are qualities you admire. In many cases, she is deciding whether it makes sense to become more emotionally invested or whether she should maintain some distance. This is where many men make a mistake. They focus heavily on physical traits, listing preferences such as appearance, height, age, or body type. While they may think they are answering honestly, they often come across as being more interested in a specific image than in building a genuine connection. A stronger response highlights personal qualities rather than physical attributes. Talking about kindness, curiosity, emotional maturity, a sense of humor, or the ability to enjoy life creates a very different impression. It shifts the conversation from appearance to compatibility and meaningful connection. I once heard about a man who met a woman through a volunteer program. Over time, they became comfortable with one another, and one day she asked what type of woman he usually preferred. He responded that he valued someone who made life more enjoyable and who was easy to talk to for hours. She smiled and admitted that his answer was much better than she expected. The power of this question lies in the fact that she is not only asking about your ideal partner. She is quietly wondering whether she might fit that description herself. Another question that often signals interest is one that many men misunderstand completely. A woman may smile and ask, "Are you always this charming?" At first glance, it sounds like playful teasing or a simple compliment. Many men laugh it off, dismiss it, or assume she is merely being polite. What they fail to see is that she is acknowledging the positive connection between you and giving you an opportunity to do the same. In these moments, attraction briefly becomes more visible. The question is not really about your charm. If she did not find you charming, she probably would not have asked it in the first place. Instead, she wants to see whether you can accept the compliment comfortably and remain engaged in the moment. Many men immediately deflect compliments because they feel awkward receiving them. They joke, downplay the remark, or act as though it does not matter. When that happens, they often weaken the connection she was trying to build. A better response is relaxed and confident. A light-hearted comment such as, "Only when I'm enjoying the company," or "Maybe the right person brings it out in me," keeps the interaction warm and natural. The goal is not to impress her with a clever answer. It is simply to acknowledge the moment, accept the compliment gracefully, and allow the connection to continue growing. A story was once shared about a man attending a dinner party where he spent much of the evening talking with a woman he had just met. Their conversation was effortless, and they seemed to enjoy each other's company. At one point, she smiled and asked, "Are you always this charming?" Rather than dismissing the compliment with a joke, he replied, "Only when the conversation inspires me to be." She held his gaze a little longer afterward, and the connection between them seemed to grow stronger. This illustrates why such a question can be meaningful. It is usually not about charm itself. Instead, it is often about testing the chemistry between two people. By asking, she is creating a small opportunity to see whether you recognize and respond to the connection she feels. Another question that many women ask when they are interested is, "Why don't you have a girlfriend?" At first, it sounds like ordinary curiosity. However, when it is asked with warmth, eye contact, and genuine interest, it often carries a deeper purpose. She is not looking for a complete history of your past relationships or an explanation of why previous romances ended. More often, she wants to know whether there is space in your life for a new relationship. In other words, she is trying to find out whether you are emotionally available or still tied to experiences from the past. Many men unintentionally create distance when answering this question. Some focus on the difficulties of relationships, others emphasize how much they enjoy being alone, and some revisit painful stories of heartbreak or disappointment. Although these responses may be truthful, they can unintentionally signal that there is little room for someone new. A stronger answer communicates openness without sounding desperate. Saying something like, "I've been concentrating on other priorities, but I'm open to the right person," or, "I just haven't found the connection I'm looking for yet," suggests that your life is fulfilling while still leaving room for a future relationship. I remember hearing about a man who met a woman at an art exhibition. After spending nearly an hour discussing artwork and exchanging stories, a woman asked, "How does a man like you not have a girlfriend?" He smiled and answered, "Maybe I've been waiting for someone worth making room for." She laughed, but more importantly, she remained engaged in the conversation. Her question had not really been about his relationship status. It was about whether she could imagine herself becoming part of his future. That is what makes this question significant. It may sound casual, but it is often a subtle way of determining whether the door to a relationship is open before taking a greater emotional risk. Then there is perhaps the most direct question of all, would you ever date someone like me? Many men immediately begin analyzing such a question. They wonder whether the woman is joking, being polite, or simply making conversation. What they often overlook is the vulnerability behind those words. Before a woman asks a question like that, she has usually already considered the possibility of a deeper connection. She has imagined what it might be like and has wondered whether the relationship could develop into something more. The question is not the start of her interest, it is evidence that the interest already exists. Unfortunately, many opportunities are lost in moments like these. A man may become nervous, offer a vague answer, change the topic, or joke his way out of the situation. In trying to avoid making assumptions, he can unintentionally leave her feeling exposed after she has taken an emotional risk. The best response is often simple honesty. There is no need for cleverness or rehearsed lines. What matters is acknowledging the possibility she is presenting. Because what she is truly asking is not whether you date women who resemble her. She is asking whether you see her as a potential partner. I remember hearing about a man who met a woman through a walking group. After weeks of enjoyable conversations, they found themselves watching a sunset together after an event. During a quiet moment, she asked, "Would you ever date someone like me?" He could have avoided the question or turned it into a joke. Instead, he simply replied, "If the connection felt right, absolutely." Her expression immediately softened because she finally understood where she stood. Questions like these are rarely requests for information alone. They are often acts of courage and subtle expressions of interest. Looking at all these examples, a clear pattern emerges. Whether a woman asks about your age, your marital status, your dating preferences, or the type of woman you usually like, the wording may differ, but the underlying purpose is often the same. In many cases, she is trying to answer a question she is not yet comfortable asking directly. Through seemingly casual conversation, she is looking for clues about whether a deeper connection is possible and whether you might be open to exploring it.